Thank you, Kristen, and thanks, Eric, and the university here for giving me the opportunity to come out here and share some of our learnings with this group here. I have to echo Bo from this morning. If I was in Akron, I would be looking at snow out there, and it would be probably minus 10 degrees. I don't know if you know how that is, but if you would take an egg and break it out on the curb there, it would freeze. That's how it feels in the northern part of the country. So it's really a welcome opportunity to come out here and enjoy some of the great weather here. I got an interesting question last night. Somebody asked me if what I'm speaking about today, if it can also be used for problems in relationships, like problems with spouses or significant others. Well, my answer to that is if it was, I probably would be speaking on the talk shows around the country. But on the other side, why not? I mean, you're welcome to try it. Just don't send me any hate emails. And don't blame me for it. Sorry for that. Anyway, we're talking about, this is very, very basics. This morning you heard some much more sophisticated approaches. I kept this since it's a lunch speech. I thought I'd keep it extremely basic, and maybe some of you just getting started on it and can really get something out of this. At Goodyear, we make tires for virtually anything that needs tires to move. We are located on Innovation Way in Akron, Ohio, and we had to really change the way we work. We could not compete anymore with companies who produce in other countries. We really had to change things, and we used Lean all the way through the organization, including product development, which is quite unique at this time. We are a global company in 22 countries, 42 plants, third largest company. We have 3 innovation centers, 1 in Akron, Ohio, 1 and 2 in Europe. And here's the key. Every year we launch about 1,500 new products at Goodyear. Those are 1,500 unique SKUs. And do about 4,000 learning cycles every year, and spend about $450 million on that research. Now, in order to get all those products out right on time, on quality and everything, we really had to change the way we were working. And we used the principle-based Lean product development process, which is pretty much what we attribute the fact to, that we launch everything on time, on performance. And problem solving is an integral part of that. And actually, our problem solving approach is probably the only thing at Goodyear that we are truly global. Everybody in the whole company, 68,000 employees, are taught it exactly the same way. That is, manufacturing does things totally different than product development, and they use different Lean tools and different processes. But this is the only one that I have found so far that we all together one single way, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about. Dilbert normally gets it right, so I like to start with the Dilbert. Don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. Well, when I bring you solutions, you tell me you tell me they won't work, and you treat me like a moron. Well, what's the problem with that? Okay, I have a couple stories here, but in the interest of time, I'm only going to tell you one story about problem solving. This is a true story. This company makes something that goes in a tube, like toothpaste, and they come out at the end at very high speed, get packaged, and they sell them to Walmart, and Walmart complained that sometimes there is a carton that they pay for, they put on the shelf, and there's no tube inside that carton. So they go out and hire the smartest problem solvers, and they are coming in, some people call it the tiger team, And then $500,000 later, they actually have a solution. They put a high-speed scale into the line, and the line stops every time there is a carton without a toothpaste in it. Well, everybody's happy. The first day, they had 22 times the line stopped. The next day, line stopped 26 times. The plant manager is ecstatic about it. Well, this is great. We fixed our problem. The next day, no line stoppage. Well, he got all panicky, runs downstairs, tries to find out what's going on, calls the supervisor, and asks the supervisor, what's going on? And the supervisor says, well, I fixed the problem. And he said, no, we fixed the... No, said the supervisor, I fixed the problem. And he said, well, what did you do? Well, I turned the fan around, he said. So there was a big fan next to the line where all these tubes were coming through. And he turned the fan around, and now the fan blew off all the empty containers. And he said, what did you do there? He says, well, every time the line stops, we lose 15 minutes production, he said, and we fill all these bins with scrap every time the line stops, and I can't get anything else done anymore, the gentleman says. I have to restart the line every time it stops, so I thought I fixed the problem and turned the fan around, and now the line doesn't stop anymore. Get the idea? Why didn't they ask this gentleman in the first place, okay? Traditional approach, we don't have any problems. That's what I was taught when I hired in Goodyear. Don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. Just make the numbers. Work around the problem. We'll figure out how to get around it. We just need to make the numbers. We need to make the ticket today. So just find out a way to work around it. And especially don't get associated with the problem, because you don't want any part of it, because we normally blame the people for when we have problems. So whose fault it is often the first question. It's the MBA approach, managing by objectives, make your numbers or else, I heard this morning. Well, that has been the reality in many companies. And don't look back. If you got around it or whatever, never look back, just move on. Until it happens again, but we don't talk about that. And it is a sociological behavior problem. I don't want to go into those details, but there is a big human part of this, and that is challenging. And at Goodyear, we always were proud that we had good firefighters. And we always prided ourselves on it. And by the way, who likes to solve problems with data? Who likes to solve problems when people and social things are involved? Oh, that's a fair number of hands. I'm surprised, because that's what we are talking about here. The data part, the makes and methods like that are pretty good. But I do not recall many of those problems that were challenging. The problems that are challenging are the ones that are social and where a lot of people issues are involved. And that's what we're going to talk about here. Now, the other side of the problems, the biggest problem gets the resources, of course. And if you don't have a problem, you better create one, or somebody else will get the resources. And that is true. I have many stories on that. Consequences, people hide stuff. There's fog. Anytime there's a problem, people throw so much fog up there that nobody can find out who's associated with it. There's hiding, there's blaming, jumping to solutions. You better get the solution the first time you talk to your boss about it. Fixing, working around it, not sustaining, no feedback, no reflection. And next year or next month, we solve the problem again. And then the firefighting culture that goes as far as create your own fire, and no learning, no improving. And as I said, fixing the same problem many times. Now, if you want to do lean in your company, you cannot live with that culture. The pain, the culture, the MBO thinking always leads to blaming an individual. And that is very frequent. That's why people don't want to be associated with the problem. But in reality, I am convinced that 99.9% of the people come to work every day trying to do as good of a job as they can. I mean, we have had cases where somebody tries to sabotage something, but those cases are extremely rare. Virtually everybody comes to work with the intention to do a good job, and if they cannot do a good job, it's because they have bad equipment, or they work in bad processes, or they don't have the right education, or whatever. And that's really the attitude that, or the rethinking that has to happen. People working in the process, they are the best ones to fix a problem. They are, as I tried to show you with the toothpaste line, they are the best position to fix the problem. Better than any industrial engineer or development engineer, whoever. At least they have to be deeply involved with it. Now, if you blame them for everything that happens, well, you won't get them involved, that's for sure. If you always look for the guilty, nobody wants to be the guilty, nobody wants to be part of that. So you really have to change the culture and make sure you get the people who do the work involved in doing the improvements. The lean way to deal with problems is, a problem is an opportunity to make a better process. Now, the Toyota Tsunami here, Toyota got caught a few years ago in a real big problem. When the tsunami happened in Japan, it affected a lot of their plants. It affected parts coming to, going all around the world. It was something that never happened to them before, and they really weren't all that well prepared for it. But I can tell you one thing, that will never happen to Toyota again, because I'm pretty sure they have all the steps in place now to learn from that. First of all, they fixed the problem extremely quickly. And number two, I don't think if something like that happens, there will be things in place to mitigate it as good as they can. Now, without defined processes and standards, there is chaos, and improvement attempts are random. When we hired the first consultant at Goodyear to help us with lean product development, they said, we can't help you. We would love to help you, but we can't. And we said, why? What's the problem? They said, well, you called us to help you improve your process, but you don't have a process. And I think they were right, and we had to start developing a process, developing some standards, and now we can do meaningful improvements. You should even have a standard problem-solving process. And I'm going to show you I'm going to show you ours. It's what we are using, but I'm seeing other examples this morning, and there are many books about it. The key is that you have something that you standardize and you use something to improve. And it must lead to a culture of learning and continuous improvement. And this I saw it from John Shook the first time. There are many examples of this. No problem is a big problem. When Toyota started up Tsunami in Fremont, nothing worked, and they had a real mess at one time. And the Japanese plant manager asked all the people reporting to him, what's the problem? And no, I don't have a problem, I don't have a problem. And he got so mad, he finally says, no problem is big problem. And that really, I like that slogan. You really have to have an attitude that you have to have problems, you have to find them, they help you become better at what you are doing. So I'm going to show you now a 3P approach to problem solving. By the way, every time you want to do a presentation on lean and you don't know what order to follow, 3P always works. It is purpose, process, and people. And I put them in that order. The purpose is normally relatively easy. The process is a little more difficult, but the people, as far as I'm concerned, is by far the most difficult and challenging part of it. So the purpose, improve the way you work and develop people. That's, you heard it this morning several times. You develop people by teaching them, coaching them, educating them to be good problem solvers. You teach them a very efficient process to think. You actually teach them to think, and that's very important. Here's the Goodyear process. A lot of people will recognize this. It is in many A3 books, or at least pieces of it, and I saw several pieces of it this morning. First of all, you have to understand the background. You need to know why you are doing this. Second, you have to understand what's happening right now, the current situation. Go see, very important. Even the engineers have to get away from their computer and go out and see what's going on. Then clearly define the problem. Einstein says, if I had 100 minutes to fix a problem, I would spend 95 minutes defining the problem and 5 minutes to solve it. There's a lot of truth to it. Very, very often, I read about 3, 4 A3s every day. And most of them just, the problem is that they don't figure out what the problem is. It's just trying to get to a solution as quickly as possible and then fixing the wrong problem. Set goals, very important. Find the root causes. And then I put an S on countermeasures. I have rarely seen a problem that had just one countermeasure. First of all, I don't like the word solution because that's like math. There's only one solution. That doesn't work for most administrative or process problems, even for most factory problems. They rarely have one solution. So make sure you look for many countermeasures. More than one, validate them. You heard the word namawashi this morning. That means don't just say, hey, I have a solution here, go implement it. The key is you have to do a little homework on it. You have to make sure it's feasible. You have to make sure that the people who are responsible to deal with it are even willing to deal with it. And then evaluate and prioritize them. That's the exercise that Tom did with us this morning. The next one is implement. That's normally very easy. You just do, we're all good project managers, just make that task list and we'll get it implemented. Now, the biggest weakness that we had in our company was PDCA. Well, we did the P and the D, okay, but we never did the C. Nobody ever took the time to go back and see, did it actually work? Did we fix the problem? Did we meet our goals? And the very important piece of it, and if you don't meet it, of course, you adjust and do whatever you have to get to the goals. And then the next two you rarely see anywhere in a book, but to me they're very important. I think a person who solves a problem is responsible to make a control plan, to figure out what do we have to do that this never happens again. What standards do we need to update? What rules do we need to change? What training we need to provide, and so on. And then the last one is the sharing. That is something very, very difficult, because if I know something, I'm worth more to my company if I keep it to myself. Because now everybody will come to me. I'm the expert. I got job security. And that's kind of, if you evaluate people one versus the other, like a lot of companies do when they rate their employees for merits and so on, you work against all these people and you don't like to share anything with them. But the company loses a lot of money if that culture gets too dominant. So sharing has not been very popular in American industry, but in the Japanese industry it has been very, very popular. They even have special processes, one's called Yokoten, where you, as the problem solver, have to figure out where in the whole organization, laterally, that same problem could exist, and it's your responsibility to make sure it gets communicated and implemented there. As I said, we do lots of those. Now, as far as the people is concerned, I want to talk about the 3E process. First is engage. Second E stands for educate, and it's educate on the process and through the process. And the last one is empower. But I give you a little twist to the empower. First of all, the engage. Who's the best person to get involved in solving a problem? You heard that today many times. Well, the people who actually do the work. They must be motivated. It's like, everybody knows what an end-on is. That's in the assembly line when you stop the line because you made a mistake or you saw a mistake. That is difficult in the culture, because if you blame people to be associated with a problem, nobody will stop the line. They will just do whatever to move on and not get caught. Now, I was afraid that would happen, but I think we still have the other ones, but now I need to come down here because now I can't see him. There we go. I shouldn't have talked about the end-on. Okay, now this is a significant cultural change, and John Shook talks a lot about it when he was part of the Tsunami plant in Fremont. What a cultural change it was to teach the people it's okay to stop the line. You won't get blamed. We want you to do that. And then how better respect people than asking their opinion, involvement, and engagement. You can respect people many different ways, but I think one of the really, a plant manager comes down and asks somebody who works the line, hey, what can we do here? Rather than telling him, hey, go do this, 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 just ask their opinion. That is really the biggest thing in showing respect to people that I can see. Okay, now the next one, educate. Toyota, again, showing the example there, they have the B shift. The B shift in Toyota is whenever the volume, the manufacturing ticket goes down a little bit, they stop the shift early, or they take a bunch of people off the line, and they call that the B shift. Those are the people that they train in problem solving. Those are the people they train in continuous improvement. They give them projects and so on during that time. And they work together on those kind of skills because, and of course at the same time, they solve the process problems that they have. So they do that in a very organized way, and of course if the volume goes back up, some go back on the line, but that is part of everybody's work in the plant to be on that B shift for a time and learn how to deal with problems and how to solve them. The personal experience we can skip. I just want to say that it is not very popular, even in my company. When we started Lean, the first thing we did is train everybody and train them again and train them again. And every time you get shown the budget, that costs money. Yes, it costs money. But that's what you have to do. If you want the people who do the work to be engaged in improving, you need to teach them. You really need to spend money and time on their training. It is, you need to teach people Lean. You need to teach people problem solving. They cannot do that without any teaching at all. And then it's an important part of everybody's education. It's an important part of everybody's training. You teach people, you coach people by making them good problem solvers. As I said, the education is very important, but the most overlooked one. Thank you. By the way, I have this monitor is blank. That's why I had to go down. So what's empowerment? That's the last one. Everybody heard about empowerment? No? Well, here is my definition of it. Authority is, I tell you. If I tell Susan, you go do something, I'm the boss, I tell you go do it, you have authority to do it. Because if somebody is in your way, you tell them to come talk to me, okay? That's authority. She has authority to do it because I told her to do it. Empowerment is you tell me. Now, how does that work? Well, we have a problem, okay? Now you tell me how you are planning to go solve the problem. The thinking is on you, but I want to know. And that's the twist on it. Most people say, hey, empowerment, I tell you, you got complete freedom, go do it. Well, that's management not doing their job, because the manager has a job too. And the manager's job is to know what you're going to do, to make sure that you do it right, and to make sure that, that it gets done. Now, this is actually from LEI, from John Shook, a dictator style, do what I tell you. Then you get the empowerment style, hey, do it your way, just let me know when it's done. But John calls it the A3 style. Here's the thing where, Susan, I want to know how you're going to solve this, okay? You figure it out, you share it with me, and I help you. And if I don't agree with you, or if we don't have the money, or if I know something that you don't know, I share that with you, I coach you, but we're going to do this thing together. But you are going to do the thinking. I'm just going to make sure that it's aligned with everything else, and that we have the money for it, and all that other good stuff. So you and me solve problems. You educate the people that way, and you create the alignment. So what happens if you tell people what to do? Well, first of all, you deprive them from the opportunity to think. We heard a lot about that this morning. Also, we take the responsibility away. If I tell you, Susan, to do it this way, who's responsible if it doesn't work? You or me? I am, okay? I don't want that. It's my job to make sure you're responsible, and it's my job to make sure you accept that responsibility. And of course, the last one is they might just as well do it and prove to me that I was wrong in the first place. So lean management, responsibility and authority. Here's a quote from John Shook. In my 5 years in Toyota City, almost never was I told exactly what to do or how to do it. However, I was not free to just do what I wanted to do. I was given clear responsibility to propose solutions for problems that I owned. So that's, for me, the entitlement. You're responsible, you're going to do it, I know about it, I support you, but it's not that you can do whatever you want to. So the leader's role in change. How can I get others to do this? You hear that very often. In fact, I heard this from a chairman in a company. I just can't get my people to do what I want them to do. Well, maybe we send them to A3 training. The challenge is not getting other people to do it. The challenge is getting you and me to do it. And you heard nudging this morning about, I don't know how you called it, I call it the cookie trail. When I coach an A3 and I know the solution, well, no, I don't know the solution. But rather than tell, I know something that the person who does the A3 does not know. I like to lay out a cookie trail. So they can follow the cookie trail, and when they come up with the solution, they are convinced it's their solution, and they take responsibility, they take ownership, and you get sustainability. Here's a Goodyear senior VP that I'm quoting verbatim. Here's a gentleman who is about my age and has had the same time with the company than I have had, and who went through all kind of different phases. And he was known to really be a dictator. And this is what he said the other day. I have been sitting through these reviews. I knew the solution in every case, he said, but I really had to force myself to hold back down, or to hold back telling them. I would have never gotten a sustainable solution. Same idea. I assume he asked the right questions to lead his group there to come up with putting them on the right track at least. So the A3, it's a contract. It's amazing. I do not know these two folks from this morning. I never met them before, but it's amazed how aligned, and I never seen their presentations either. The A3 is a contract. It spells out clear responsibilities, defines ownership. A big thing is it creates alignment. It creates alignment between between me and Susan. It would create the alignment. I know what she's doing. She knows what I'm expecting. It defines the authority because you have still the authority to do this. And then it definitely helps develop people. At Toyota, the A3 process is one of the biggest tools they use to develop their people. And you can integrate the MAKE, the REDX, or whatever other problem-solving processes you have. You can integrate them very easily into the A3 because they are mostly the technical piece. You can handle all the other, the social and the people piece with the other points. An example of an A3, and problems are, and as a summary, problems are opportunities to learn. They are opportunities to change the culture. I suggest the 3E method, the engage, the educate, the empower, and definitely have a process for it. If you don't have a process, you don't improve the way you do work. If you have a bad process to start, that is okay. Should never worry about that. The key is that it gets better tomorrow, and in a month you have a better process, and in a year you still have a better process. You don't learn, you learn as you go along, and you don't lose what you learned. Everything that you learned, you lock it in and change the process. So every new Kaizen takes you to a higher level, and you don't have to reinvent what you have already learned before. And then become a learning company, of course. If everybody does that, you do change your culture, and you learn from everything you do. Well, there's my email, my phone numbers. It's on. It's in your handout. Please feel free to contact me anytime. I heard that from I'm not a consultant, but I heard it from a consultant the other day. This gentleman says, every email I get, I learn something. And I have a huge database, he says, with all these questions. And I really know much better what to focus on right now than I would do without these emails. So feel free to send me any comments, questions. I will answer, I promise you that. And I wanted to have a lot of time for questions. So do we have microphones for them, or? No. We probably don't need them. I will repeat them so we can... You have to use your outside voice. Either use your outside voice or I will repeat your question.
Can you speak about how to implement problem solving for research and development with some more detail?
Yeah, some more detail about how to use problem-solving in product development. Let me give you a very good example what we do with the AC3 process in product development. An experiment, a learning cycle at Goodyear is about $100,000 to $200,000, okay? It's a lot of money, and we do lots of them. So you either let the engineers try whatever they want to try, or you still give them the freedom and make sure you get the thinking and everything. But every engineer who does runs a big experiment makes an A3 now, writes down why, writes down the current state. Why do we have to do another experiment? Then he writes a hypothesis. This is what I try to achieve with this learning cycle. Then, of course, the analysis is simple. You run the experiment, but now they are forced to go back and do PDCA. Did I get the results that I expected? Well, if I got the results, you have to ask yourself, why did you run an experiment? We should have that in our knowledge database, so we need to update the knowledge database and make sure we use the knowledge database correctly, because we just wasted the money to run the experiment. But if we do learn something, If the result is different than expected, if we learn something, now we created new knowledge. And now we use the process to capture that knowledge, put it in the standards. The engineer who ran the experiment is responsible for this, responsible to share what he learned, make sure it goes in the standards, and so on and so on. So that's how we close the loop, and you use virtually every step of the A3. One way of doing it, and of course, simple problem solving, as I said at the beginning, it's the same everywhere. Most process problems, you can very easily use that tool. Any other questions?
Yes, how do you, I think we have a microphone now.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Yes, I was just curious, so you said you're trying to have folks implement change, and how do you engage these employees, particularly if they might be just there to collect a paycheck? How do you engage this idea, this system of empowerment? You know, a lot of folks are just apathetic to the idea. Do you have any suggestions with that?
Well, I gave you a lot of them in the presentation here. First of all, don't associate people with the problem. People have to if something goes wrong, there's something wrong with the process or with equipment or whatever. The person who brings it to your attention should be a hero and should not be blamed for being associated with it. So that takes a lot of free thinking in a company, because normally when there's a problem, nobody likes to fess up to it. It hurts, and whenever it hurts, somebody needs to get blamed. That's still ingrained in a lot of cultures. The other thing is to just follow this process, engage them, ask their opinion. Instead of sending an industrial engineer down to the assembly line or a manager down to the lab, just go talk to the folks in the lab. Gemba walks, that's another Japanese term. It's where we encourage all our leaders to go out in the lab, to go out in the factory, to go and talk to the engineers. The question on one-on-ones came up this morning. That's one form of that. There is a regular weekly or monthly meeting with everybody and their manager, and then on a less frequent scale, employees talk to the director on a one-on-one. That makes a different change in the culture. Now all of a sudden they feel, hey, somebody's interested in my opinion. Somebody asked me to come and talk to me. Those are important tools to get to that culture where everybody understands, hey, I don't get blamed for this. I'm supposed to bring up these things. And then you engage everybody in the solutions. Not that you tell them, hey, go fix it and do it your way. You want to know and you want to coach them through it. But it's them who are going to fix it. And if they don't have the knowledge to that, that's when you need to educate everybody to make sure that they have the knowledge. We have about probably a third of all people in R&D trained in the A3 process now. And we do virtually a training session. Virtually every week we do another session. They need to learn the process.
Cycle times and practical times can be so long. So to see results, it can be months or a year before you really see the result of any process that you change. Do you have any tips?
Yes, I got to chuckle because I have not seen anybody yet in R&D who did not have the same problem. The cycle time is too long. Takes forever to get something out. There are many, many, many reasons for that, of course. But I want to give you one that you learned this morning. Say no. Assess and say no. Because there has to be, you have to try new things to fail, okay? I mean, you have to try new things and you will fail, but you will learn something. And you have to have that room for failure. So you have to put that in your plans to start with. But there's a lot of other stuff that you really shouldn't be doing. And Steve Jobs, if you read his, he has 7 key points that he shared. There's somebody who wrote a book about, I forgot what the book is called, but the 3rd point in that book is learn to say no. When Steve Jobs came back to Apple the 2nd time, he canceled hundreds and hundreds of projects. He says, look, even if we're successful with this one, we won't make any money. We all know we will not make any money. Why are we working on it? And they made good assessments and picked the winners and focused on the winners. There is a law, it's called Little's Law. It says cycle time equals work in process divided by the throughput. The more work you have in process, the longer everything will take. So try to work on as few things at the same time as you can. Have engineers work on one single project. I don't want to ask you how many projects every engineer, but I bet you it's between 10 and 30, 40. Those are simple tools, but there's a lot of good literature on it. I can talk to you some more about it. That's where we started, by the way, when we started Lean in R&D. Any other questions?
How many black belts at Goodyear?
That is a very interesting question. How many black belts at Goodyear? Virtually none. There are reasons for that. There's a lot of people who know those tools, who know that stuff. I'm a black belt, and I spend a lot of time on Six Sigma, very good time, and I loved it, and I go back there any time because that's great stuff for a scientist, for an engineer. But GE had all these goals. We need to train so many people and so many black belts, so many green belts, and so on. So what does that mean? They have a lot of people trained, but if they don't get return for it, what is it good for? I like the metrics where we get return, and the return should be something that you see in the bottom line. And that's what you need to focus on in a Lean initiative. Not how many people you trained, but how effective those that are trained are in doing something. And I think this, how many we have, how many do we train, really distracts from the metric that you should have. How effective are they? Are they using what they learned, and is it improving the plant? Are we making more money now that after we spend all that investment? But we do, I have to say, in product development, we do similar to a black belt education in lean product development, where we teach people the process, the tools. First of all, that they can use it when they hire in. They learn all these tools, and they learn the lean way when they hire in. But we teach them because that's the knowledge they need to improve. And if we don't give them that knowledge, everything will stay on the same level. They are the ones who need to improve. They are the ones who need to improve the process, so they need to be taught. But I could not tell you how many. We run a class every year. We run a full class. They need to do projects, and it's patterned after the black belt from Six Sigma. But maybe not the answer you like. But we have 1:05. How much time do we have? How many questions?
I think we're about ready to wrap it up.
Okay, one more question. Okay, last question. Make it a good one. Well, it looks like everybody wants to wrap up, so thanks, everybody.